Americans Elizabeth Hampstein, 249, and Lillian Schlissel, 250, offer a grim portrait of loneliness, privation, abuse, and demanding physical labor from an early age. Rainer Kellerberg takes a middle position. 251, prostitution and gambling. Entrepreneurs set up shops and businesses to cater to the miners. World famous were the houses of prostitution found in every mining camp worldwide. 252. Prostitution was a growth industry attracting sex workers from around the globe, lured in by the money, despite the harsh and dangerous working conditions and low prestige. Chinese women were frequently sold by their families and taken to the camps as prostitutes. They had to send their earnings back to the family in China. 253. In Virginia City, Nevada, a prostitute, Julia Bulette, was one of the few who achieved respectable status. She nursed victims of an influenza epidemic. This gave her acceptance in the community and the support of the sheriff. The townspeople were shocked when she was murdered in 1867. They gave her a lavish funeral and speedily tried and hanged her assailant. 254. Until the 1890s, madams predominantly ran the businesses, after which male pimps took over, and the treatment of the women generally declined. It was not uncommon for bordellos in western towns to operate openly, without the stigma of East Coast cities. Gambling and prostitution were central to life in these western towns, and only later as the female population increased, reformers moved in, and other civilizing influences arrived, did prostitution become less blatant and less common. 255. After a decade or so, the mining towns attracted respectable women who ran boarding houses, organized church societies, worked as laundresses and seamstresses, and strove for independent status. 256. Whenever a new settlement or mining camp started, one of the first buildings or tents erected would be a gambling hall. As the population grew, gambling halls were typically the largest and most ornately decorated buildings in any town, and often housed a bar, stage for entertainment, and hotel rooms for guests. These establishments were a driving force behind the local economy, and many towns measured their prosperity by the number of gambling halls and professional gamblers they had. Towns that were friendly to gambling were typically known to sports as Wide Awake or Wide Open. 257. Cattle towns in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska became famous centers of gambling. The cowboys had been accumulating their wages and postponing their pleasures until they finally arrived in town with money to.
Yes, I'd like to read about Julia Bulette,
Tom.
a former prostitute. So duplicates. Yes, then Mexico, California, then this states, three states, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, of course we need Nevada, and Arizona. So I have to sit up. Oklahoma State. Yes, I'm driving American Truck Simulator. I've been driving around there a few years. I have 1,000 videos. But American Truck Simulator have nothing to do with the real world. Let's duplicate. Kansas. Nebraska, need Nevada, but I start to get tired. Let's Nebraska, duplicates. Yes, I need the keyboard because many keys. Now it's 11-bit. Arizona, duplicate. Then we need Nevada, and of course we need Las Vegas, of course, Nevada. Las Vegas, then New Mexico State, and of course Texas. Then we have New Mexico, New Mexico State, United States, og that's about Rio Grande River. We need the Rio Grande, of course. Rio Grande. Yes, and then we need Mississippi. I like to read about the Mississippi, if I can spell M-E-S-S-E, Mississippi River. That could be nice to sail there. There's a long river from the Gulf of Mexico in Texas. You can, with a sub-paddle board, this sub-paddle board are rubber boats. I could fly to Houston in Texas, buy a rubber boat dinghy and a sub-paddle board, then I could, and then a power engine outboards, then sail up through the Mississippi River. You can go all the way up there, you can go to left and right, you got this map, look at that. But you can go up or down. I think they have alligators. Alligator. And American alligator. Mississippi, I think they have alligators there. This one is inside the Mississippi River, I think. This is why properly you should not just swim around everywhere, like in Florida. This swamp, or not Florida swamp, I not remember what they call it. Should we do crocodile? Crocodile, Mississippi, alligator, American alligators, crocodile, Mexico, Mexico City and drug war. Drug traffic, no, we not now, we have to stop now. I have like 30 windows open again. Jula Bolette. So, but we are still reading, we are not finished this. But we have to go back to read it later.
Wager. Abilene, Dodge City, Wichita, Omaha, and Kansas City all had an atmosphere that was convivial togaming. Such an atmosphere also invited trouble, and such towns also developed reputations as lawless and dangerous places. 258, 259, Law and Order. The Dodge City Peace Commission, the 10th of June, 1883, standing from left, William H. Harris, 1845-1895, Luke Short, 1854-1893, William Bat Masterson, 1853-1921, William F. Patillan, 1846-1917, seated from left, Charlie Bassett, 1847-1896, Wyatt Earp, 1848-1929, Michael Francis Frank McLean, 1854-1902, Cornelius Neil Brown, 1844-1926. Photo by Charles Aconkling. 260. Historian Waddy W. Moore uses court records to show that on the sparsely settled Arkansas frontier lawlessness was common. He distinguished two types of crimes: unprofessional, dueling, crimes of drunkenness, selling whiskey to the natives, cutting trees on federal land, and professional, rustling, highway robbery, counterfeiting. 261. Criminals found many opportunities to rob pioneer families of their possessions, while the few underfunded lawmen had great difficulty detecting, arresting, holding, and convicting wrongdoers. Bandits, typically in groups of 2 or 3, rarely attacked stagecoaches with a guard carrying a sawed-off, double-barreled shotgun. It proved less risky to rob teamsters, people on foot, and solitary horsemen. 262, while bank robberyist Hemsworths were harder to pull off due to the security of the establishment. According to historian Brian Robb, the earliest form of organized crime in America was born from the gangs of the Old West. 263, when criminals were convicted, the punishment was severe. 261, aside from the occasional Western sheriff and marshal, there were other various law enforcement agencies throughout the American frontier, such as the Texas Rangers. 264. These lawmen were not just instrumental in keeping the peace, but also in protecting the locals from native and Mexican threats at the border. 265. Law enforcement tended to be more stringent in towns than in rural areas. Law enforcement emphasized maintaining stability more than armed combat, focusing on drunkenness, disarming cowboys who violated gun control edicts, and dealing with flagrant breaches of gambling and prostitution ordinances. 266. Dykstra argues that the violent image of the cattle towns in film and fiction is largely a myth. The real Dodge City, he says, was the headquarters for the buffalo hide trade of the southern plains and one of fewest's principal cattle towns, a sale and shipping point for cattle arriving from Texas. He states there is a second Dodge City that belongs to the popular imagination and thrives as a cultural metaphor for violence, chaos, and depravity. 267, for the cowboy arriving with money in hand after 2 months on their trail. The town was exciting. A contemporary eyewitness of Hays City, Kansas, paints a vivid image of this cattle town. Hays City by lamplight was remarkably lively, but not very moral. The streets blazed with our reflection from saloons, and a glance within showed floors crowded with dancers, the gala-dressed women striving to hide with ribbons and paint the terrible lines which that grim artist Dissipation loves to draw upon such faces. To the music of violins and the stamping of feet the dance went on, and we saw in the giddy maze old men who must have been pirouetting on the very edge of their graves. 268. It has been acknowledged that the popular portrayal of Dodge City in film and fiction carries a note of truth. However, as gun crime was rampant in the city before the establishment of a local government, Soon after the city's residents officially established their first municipal government, however, a law banning it has been acknowledged that the
Dodge
popular
City
portrayal
and
of Dodge City in
Texas
film and fiction
Rangers.
carries a note of
Duplicates Dodge City. Dodge City, Kansas. Then Texas Rangers. Now got like 40. Texas Rangers. Texas Rangers. Yes, that's the one here. Texas Rangers should do the sheriff. Well, of course, should be American sheriff.
Tom and
Top sheriff in United States. Sheriff in United States. Yes. And marshals, but then we have like 50. That would take a whole month to read this.
Tom. There were
Yes, I need a new paper for this. Marshals. No, that's a marshal, that's a military rank. So I have to marshal. Yes, marshal of United States. Yes, we have that's a marshal in Old West. Marshal Old West. Yes, the L is not working. I have to do wild. List of gunfighters there, but